Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Hue. I left it paused on the map here. We still haven't seen anything that indicates these symbols mean anything at all. If anything, they just kind of feel like they're something that you could have bought pre-made from an asset store that have symbols in your menu for no good reason. And we've already gotten a dark blue color now in this section. So, yeah, I'm not really sure if we're going to grab anything more. Let's see. Here's an interesting question. If we grab this and we move this over here, and then the balloons are still attached even though they're invisible. Interesting. There's a real inconsistency that's going on here as far as what physics work and what physics don't work in this game. Okay, do I not have a way of bouncing that around? So we made enough room, put that around. That probably means we need to push this over here. Let's see, what box do we really want? The sound effects of the things going up and down. Yeah. Guess what we probably want is this box to open whichever platform switch that would be. Because we can't have it okay. So you get to this point, I guess, and then you can get to that point. And I guess there's just barely enough room to push the blue box over this way to get the key. Alright. And then I would assume that the move here is to have that and that. Whoops. Increasingly, I'm learning I'm going to need to switch to exact right colors, or at least one of the right colors, or otherwise you're going to kill yourself. Like, here's a great example. I can go dark blue to get to this spot. And that's going to raise it up. But now I can't go to red. So we'll go to purple. can't be purple, and we can't go to blue. So I guess it's nice that time seems either extremely slowed down or frozen. It might be bobbing up and down a little bit. So probably safe going to red to get to this point. But then we've got to swap to purple. And then red takes us downward. And then I guess we are just taking the long jumps that way. With the introduction of balloons, we do have a different gimmick here. Okay, what is the move? It's probably just to go yellow, then walk over here, and then probably go red, and put that switch there. I'm not even sure what that switch was for. And we've just learned something very important about this game. There are invisible walls and secrets. Now, this game is hardly a Metroidvania type game where you need to potentially have a map or a guide or search every single wall, but we now know, when going back to a lot of sections, the reason why we haven't found a lot of these collectible things is in part because they have been hidden through secret passageways. That being said, I really, when you look at just the number of collectibles in each area, I don't anticipate spending a lot of time through all of that unless I am just going to intentionally be forced into wandering through the entire level to figure out where the collectibles are, which that may happen. I wonder what would be really nice about this game, and we do have just kind of an odd color here. You have a light blue, a dark blue, a light purple, a dark purple, a red, and then an orange. And we know that there's a bright yellow, and I think there's got to be a green. It would be potentially interesting if we fill in the whole ring that we might have some way of having a white light coloring happening. Okay, what color was I supposed to have used? See, that's just incredibly unfair. We could slow down time, and that's exactly what it's got to be done. And then you've got to do it again. So there must be some kind of cycle here that we're supposed to be on. Probably not dark blue. And this is just relentless. I suppose this is exactly what I was expecting eventually would be some incredibly difficult like run challenge, and It's not disappointing, but it's also not really checkpointing me anywhere. And I imagine what's going to happen after this gauntlet is we are going to get a color that that would be that one extra color that if we were just in this mode doing that extra color, we would not have to swap it at all. Okay. I think the move here probably is to swap colors as you land. As soon as you get out of that next section, swap your colors. And there's no way you're going to get above these skeletons, and even if you did get above the skeletons, that wouldn't help you much. Whoops. The one wrong option there. I'd assume I'm probably not too far from completely doing it. And yeah, I would also assume that it would be a lot of memorization to know exactly how to swap instead of just determining what to swap to next. There we go. Wouldn't it have really sucked if I'd missed that last jump? So the most recent color we got was like dark blue. Let's see what happens when we get looked at this. It's so weird, you're getting 2 colors per world. Like, it seems fairly obvious that with a little bit more budget, they would have made twice as many worlds. But then that potentially might have made you want to make twice as many puzzles. And yeah, I don't know if this game benefits with twice as many puzzles that are exactly the same as what we've already done. Yeah, if anything, it probably is the smart move to keep this game a little bit shorter and sweeter, since it's not figured out any tricks, any new way of interacting with colors. My thought would be that you would probably want to introduce the idea of just like incredible machines, Rube Goldberg like machines that are activated when the color of the sky changes. That way you might have to really think how you're going to get a marble to move from point A to point B to point C, to the point where Hugh as a character might not even move while manipulating a machine above his head.
Spring was around the corner. Yellow daffodils poked through the dirt in our backyard. As time moved, my resentment slowly slipped away. I continued my research from home. Without Dr. Gray, work was slow, but I still made progress. One day, Hugh, when you were sleeping, I watched over you. I was on the cusp of a breakthrough, and you were the last person left to see it. I was so excited for the both of us.
these kinds of levels are just so mindless. I mean, I literally could probably close my eyes and just hold the arrow left and right and occasionally press A to get through that section. Now weirdly here, it does just not feel like Dr. Cray is the bad guy in this story. They're just not doing anything. And so we're back to the cave now. And definitely, if I had that yellow, I would have... I can now go down to this section, and I would have been able to do that whole running section, just being in yellow, I think, the entire time. It's kind of questionable whether it's useful to come back to this section, but we'll check it out. If we'd already reached this spot where you have a light bulb, and it does just feel like these light bulbs might play some bigger role as to indicate light is being produced, where the rest of this area is just windows. All the light seems to be coming from outside. Doesn't feel like there's anything here. We already found these secrets in this area. Here's our little house. So if you do save, I guess, your mom, she's gonna probably be in that rocking chair. We still don't have green. So green is going to be our switch to turn on the lighthouse. And when we turn on the lighthouse, then we can use a boat to go to the last two sections. But the other sections, let's actually try this and save some time. Like this area and this area I can't actually even highlight the section I'm trying to highlight here. The totems in the lower left, I cannot figure out a way to move the cursor. When I go to the right, I highlight that. When I go up, I highlight that. When I go to the left from this spot, I highlight the cave. When I go to the left, I highlight the cave. When I press up on the cave, I go to the waterfall. When I press down, I go nowhere. When I go to an angled section, I go nowhere. Interesting. So this very simplistic map doesn't even work with a cursor. So I guess the only thing that might be a little irritating is if I got the last color piece and then in that last color piece ran through the entire world and eventually realized that actually I need some other ability unlocked on top of the last color piece to collect all the flasks, which I'm not sure if I really even need to collect the flasks. We are now seeing light bulbs, and we are now seeing straight up lasers, which, let's just confirm something here. Yes, this game's weird darkness and brutality inspired by Limbo includes the lasers. And if anything, I would say that's probably the wrong thing to take from Limbo in the case of this game. So is this a secret facility that your mom was running, or is this the secret facility that Dr. Gray is running? weirdly, we do have a lot of electricity and light bulbs hanging around, which maybe her way of changing this world is just inventing electrical lighting, and like I really wouldn't change the regular world, the real world, much. Like we had candles for thousands of years and fires for thousands of years before we invented electrical lighting, and we had gas lighting, lighting based on gas, and so electrical light bulbs, when they first were introduced, were incredibly dim and not very full spectrum. They were very limited in the spectrum of colors they produced. Even now, getting good full spectrum LEDs can be questionable, and you will get a lot of LED light bulbs that are either more bluish in their frequency in what they call a cool light, or more yellowish in their frequencies, which they call a warm light. And sometimes nowadays they're just mixing both warm white and cool white together to try and create a mixed pure white light, more of a wider frequency, something that would look like what light looks like from the sun in the sky at noon.
My research led me to tales of a long-lost civilization. They built great machines, pioneering electricity many years before we discovered it. Strangely, though, this civilization is said to have felt no pain. They knew of pain and observed it, yet could not experience it themselves. Explaining to them the sensation of pain is like me explaining colour to someone that can only see in black and white. I wonder, Hugh, if we will be able to share in our experiences of colour.
Just notice that in the subtitles they're spelling color C-O-L-O-U-R, the British way. But she does also have a British accent, so that's fine. And we have sparking wires here that I guess we're being taught to not worry about them. They are just yet another physics thing you can bounce into that really isn't going to play any role. There definitely should have been a bigger effort, in my opinion, to figure out how are you going to take these string physical items that you can interact with and turn that into anything that would actually be a gameplay mechanic. Otherwise it is just going to come off as a gimmick, and that's exactly what it does come off as. So one would assume that the people who are observing me are the ancient civilization. I think that would be a decent guess. Okay. So we jump there. We jump there. And then you do that, and you fall off. They pull the switcheroo on me. Alright. So in this case, you just jump, and then you do that very quickly. Then it's easier to just fall down. Yeah, whole bunch of sparky wires. We're gonna have to switch to red at a very specific spot here. And I'm gonna have to figure out which purple is the right purple. Yeah. I think you run into that issue if this game goes too long where colorblind issues might start popping up even for people who aren't colorblind. Which, that's an interesting idea. Let's see what the video would look like if we turned the colorblind mode on. Let's see how this works. Well, we see now symbols in the doors, and each color has a symbol associated with it. Interesting. So then you kind of know why they would have done this. And so honestly, instead of having a default colorblind mode disabled, I question here if it wouldn't have made more sense whoops, to just have this be on by default, and then the symbols would feel like they play a bigger role, whereas the symbols play no role at all. This little Mercury symbol. Okay, I think I'm supposed to go down there. Yeah, I'm liking this more. And I'm not colorblind, but I will say this pink and this purple in the heat of the moment isn't different enough that I wouldn't make a mistake. Okay. This also gives us a little bit of safety here. So what's the trick? Blue goes about halfway through the pink, purple, I mean the purple dot, which means I have to have the blue on and then jump. This is going to be demanding, to say the least. Or maybe I'm supposed to let it just pass. That could also be the solution. You're supposed to just get to that platform to pass. Now we're introducing the idea of boxes blocking lasers. Which, let's see how that works. I'll also say that there's probably no need to move that over there. Okay. Just swapping things around here. Alright. Then we've got yet another puzzle here. It's going to be quite the platforming by the looks of it. Let's see if we can do this real quick. I may very well just opt to see. Try this once and then oh no. Wait till this comes back. Nope. Yeah, on that death, I think we can end this episode. We've already found one collectible, and with any luck, if we're just thorough enough, we'll find the remaining 3 collectibles and not have to return to this area, leaving us with only 2 areas to return to get all the flasks. And then we have probably slightly bigger areas, taking note that there are 5 flasks in the boat island area and then 5 flasks in the university area. We have 1 more color to collect. I really like these symbols and the colorblind concept. I don't think it hurts the game at all for that to be on enabled by default, and then you don't have to make colorblind people feel like they are in need of extra assistance in the first place, because there is going to be a percentage of people who would just give up on the game before even looking in the options. Although in fairness, most people who are colorblind would look at the screenshots on this game and just dismiss it anyways, so perhaps they should address that in the colorblind mode too. Now, this is not particularly changing the colors to different colors for people of different types of colorblindness, of which there are many different types, and it's almost individualized to each person's own disability, for lack of a better term. And a lot of the attempts to correct that have involved changing colors, one color to another. I would argue that PC gaming, Steam games, Xbox games, PlayStation games, Nintendo games, they probably should just adapt an open standard of lookup tables where you go through a setup tutorial once and then you have a custom lookup table, is what it's called, .lut, where it would be a table of hexadecimal computer code colors that you would replace with other hexadecimal color code computers, and on an extreme level you could turn all colors to just be black and white. That probably wouldn't work in a lot of games. In a less extreme way, you could shift light reds to being dark bright reds, or get rid of greens completely and shift them into being just purple or something like that. But you could do it for every single color in the entire color table if you wanted to get that detailed. You obviously in the setup wouldn't actually ask somebody to remap 65 million colors, or billions of colors, or whatever your TV could handle, and that's just standard dynamic range. That's not even talking high dynamic range. But yeah, that probably is the default way to address color blindness. But this solution is a little bit more subtle and a little bit more helpful, frankly, to have symbols. It wouldn't work in every game if it was just always the same symbols, although it might if we just had an international standard of this small symbol means the color red for people. And it would be an interesting experiment, at least. But I do think they've addressed it fairly well, so well that it should be default. What I don't think they've addressed well here is, as we get deeper and deeper into this game, I am dying more and more often, and it's feeling more and more like Limbo. Whereas Limbo kills the character pretty early in the game, unless you already know certain traps exist. So you know it's that kind of game. Whereas I feel like you could have played an hour and a half to 2 hours of this game without dying once, and then reached these later sections and been asked to do a lot more platforming and less puzzling. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, and keep on watching. Thanks.